This is going to be an amazing Rebel podcast. I have a special guest who's going to share some real life experiences about senior dating. And it comes from a friend. Relatives have recently moved from Iowa to Florida, and things that they're learning and exploring as they transition to a new venture in their life. And it's going to be fun and exciting to learn about independent senior living today and what that dating scene looks like. I was shocked, I was amazed, and maybe I'm naive, but I guess I really don't think a lot about baby boomers and how they date or what kind of things go on with, I don't know, like clandestine contacts, information, secret moves, little things that I would have never guessed. So join us today on the Rebel Podcast as we explore the secret world of senior dating. Who would have guessed it? Hi, I'm Deborah Danielson. I am the host of the Rebel Podcast. How are you a rebel? Do you understand how important it is to be a rebel, to set a new trail, to blaze a new way? Maybe something that most people haven't thought about. Well, today that's what we're going to talk about, blazing a trail for independent senior citizens who are trying to date, who are trying to find that love of a life, or maybe just somebody to have a good time with. I don't know. But there's a whole world out there that I recently found out about, and we're going to take a look at it today. But I find that the more I look into this subject, it's amazing the parallels, the similarities between independent senior citizens dating and things that they do to find that perfect one, as well as people just starting out looking for a serious relationship. So I wanted to share some of the personal experiences that have been happening with our guest today and his relatives. So we will have Tyler on, and Tyler will be sharing with us what he's been learning. There's Tyler as we speak.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I was just introducing you, and I would, as I've been doing more and more research on independent senior dating, the thing that I have to keep coming back to, and it just makes me laugh. I mean, this could be like a whole series on TV because there's so much material here. But yeah. It's ironic that as I read through these different things that we're going to talk about today, and the housing situation and all of that, how it's so similar to parallel basically to all of those young millennials, Generation Z, Gs, and all of these people starting out in life. It's just so similar what the experience is, what goes on. And I just can't wait to hear what your relatives have been sharing with you, because it's just, to me, opened up a whole new world that I was not aware of.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting myself to think about how similar they are. I think it really goes to show, like, I was kind of listening to your last podcast, and you were talking about like women over a certain age and how they're just as beautiful and inspiring, right? I think we put a lot of these blockades that are like self-manufactured. And I think like as a human, like human nature, we put people in these boxes, right? So the findings that we've found, since I kind of dropped this little bird in your ear about this stuff, I think we're learning that we have a lot more similarities with our parents and our grandparents than we actually even knew we did.
Yeah, it's sort of weird. And when you dropped this on me, I was outside in the garden, right? Standing there watching all of the nature take its course. The birds are building nests and they're fighting for their territory, and oh, they want just the right perfect mate and all this. And then I got to thinking, I wonder what kind of signals they're sending. They've got their little rituals, right?
Yeah.
And the more I thought about some of these rituals we're going to talk about today, it just cracked me up. I just couldn't help but laugh. And then I think about how we are so similar to Mother Nature, being driven by those basic human urges, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So it's springtime, and now we're going to talk about, I guess, dating and mating and all of that kind of stuff. So thank you for being on here. And I know people are going to say, well, my God, Deborah, why do you have on a 30 something talking about independent senior citizen dating? Well, first of all, you're the one who brought the idea to the table. And it was hilarious. And not only that, we talk about everything you and I do. But here's what's really interesting about the whole thing. The similarities are just crazy to me. And I started reading, we're going to talk in depth about this place called The Villages. And The Villages is this amazing independent retirement community. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean by that they typically want residents living there that are 55 or older. And it's really interesting to me how particular they are, because they want a certain lifestyle. And that's no different from a younger person with other amenities. So the Villages have a little over 150,000 people that live there. This is no small city. And actually, Tyler and I were discussing, it's amazing that the Villages is actually larger than the city that we live in, grew up in, that kind of thing. So, this is a happening place. There's money, there's people, there's activities, there's things going on. But this town is very, very known for its active lifestyle, and it has amenities that include a variety of dating activities built around these independent seniors. So some of the most popular, now I'm just going to read off what the most popular dating activities are for the Villages. And just in the back of your mind, think about, you could be anywhere, I think, and relate to this. So speed dating. Speed dating is the number one most popular option for people who want to meet a lot of other people in a short amount of time. And I guess the other thing is when you get older, you have less patience. So you could probably tell within 60 seconds whether somebody's going to pass the test. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you can get a pretty good vibe check in the first minute.
Well, you can at least check out their hygiene and their teeth and, their brain capacity.
Yeah.
And I remember when Farrah went speed dating that one time, that was like a freaking nightmare. I could never do it because I probably would just sit there and look at everybody and freeze and go, oh my God, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, I would agree. I like my circle a little small, so I'm always like very guarded and a bit cold with new people. So I feel like I would just not have much to say and I would not be enjoying myself. So I'm sure I would be a real gem to be around.
And now this to me, so I guess the good points about speed dating is the commitment is low.
Yeah.
And you can really say, hey, I know it's a given amount of time, and after that, I can go do something else. It's not like you're stuck on a date and you don't know how to get rid of the boat anchor and you're worried about being rude. So I guess those are the attributes I like about it. Now, the other thing they do, this sounds more like up my alley and probably yours because we are social people. Single mixers. They love to have events within the community with people who share common interests. So typically, these mixers are hosted by clubs or organizations or businesses. So, like if, a lot of senior citizens work and they want to work, they don't want to be home and they don't want to practice the golf swing. So, I kind of like this idea better. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
I think I'd probably be more open to the mixer, I feel like, rather than like the speed dating, because for some reason I love people with red flags, so I would probably get looped up with some maniac. So I think being able to have a buffet of eligible candidates would be it would be pretty nice.
A bevy of beauties to choose from. I mean, and it could be any kind of beauty. It could be, a comedy. I like a sense of humor. And I like people who are also very intelligent. To me, intelligence is really intoxicating. I mean, as long as it's real intelligence. I'm not talking about a blowhard, right? There's a lot of those to go around.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing that's on their list here that they do a lot are dances. That would be very intimidating for me. I don't know about you, Tyler, but I'm very, I guess, intimidated by my body and what to do with it, like how to move it. And I really can't. My attention span just doesn't work well with hand-eye coordination and the feet. Once I get the feet in there, I'm like, what do you mean I can't lead? Well, why, I'm just not a good follower, and then I step on everything.
I feel like for me, dancing is okay. I mean, obviously, I was a cheerleader, so dancing was a pretty big part of my upbringing. I feel that as I've gotten older, probably my coordination is not as sharp as it used to be. So I haven't danced in a while, so I may end up looking like a baby deer that's just learning how to walk. But yeah, no, I'm not a big dancer. If I'm ever at a wedding or anything, I'm never like, I'm gonna go and dance.
Yeah.
Like, really my thing.
And so, like, when I'm not sure, and I don't want to prejudge anything, but since I've never been to the villages for a dance or anything, like if they would be doing strict ballroom, if they would be doing a tango, or if they would be doing some of these, dances from the 50s or 40s, I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start with that. I'd be so intimidated. So, what would you do if you got thrown into a situation like, say you went to visit your mother, your aunt, or somebody, and you said, or they said to you, well, I'm going to a mixer tonight or a dance tonight, and I met this guy at a mixer, now he wants to do the tango or something. I mean, like, do they have to go take lessons or what? I mean, wouldn't you be intimidated?
I would be. I feel that I live a rather conservative, reserved life. I don't go out there too much, but I feel like if at that age, if you're like able to stay up that long and go out and party, I just say go off and do your thing. I mean, it wouldn't be for me. Maybe when I get older, I'll get a wild hair to want to do it, but
well, it's good exercise. That is for darn sure.
it is. It is really good exercise.
Yeah. And I say this. I mean, I like the old, let's get together, hold hands, hug. I mean, I find that very sexy and sensual. I like that kind of thing. And that I don't screw up because, it's very slow dancing.
Yeah.
And I feel comfortable with the modern dancing. If you just move to your own beat and you're got your thing going, I mean, that's good too. I can deal with that. But anything else, I sort of fall off the wagon and get very self-conscious. So I think that for me would just be a game changer. It would just not be good.
We'd have to rebook with the mixer next week and find somebody
Oh,
else.
we would have to find a whole different person. And I go back to one very embarrassing episode in my life. I was fresh, excuse me, I was fresh out of high school. And back then they had a lot of clubs or discotheques in Omaha. And they invited me, friends invited me to meet them at this club. And I get there, of course, I'm running late. I get there and I'm looking around for them. Well, back then they had really shaggy carpet. They called it shag.
Mhm.
And the longer the shag, the more cool the place or whatever, right? Well, this place had shag like 3 inches. Well, my high heel got caught in it, and I went flying and landed right across the table of all of these guys. And they were playing that song, She's a Brick House. She's mighty, mighty, just letting it all hang out. Yeah, that was me. And so I promptly found my friends, told them hello, goodbye, and I left. I couldn't go anymore. Now, the last thing they have down here is one of the main activities over there at the villages as for volunteer opportunities. That to me, I know a lot of people who love to volunteer. And it's a great way to meet people and give back to the community. But I really think it's kind of an ongoing way of having a relationship, but not really having to commit, but to really get to know somebody on a deeper level. So, what do you think about that activity?
I think it's really good. I think it offers, and it's definitely geared for that demographic. And what I have found from people that I know that have moved to this area, it's a lot of people who have like Midwestern values. You pour your heart and soul into your job, into your children, right? So
Right,
these people are really starting to begin to live now because
right.
they married young. Some of these people never finished high school. They had babies early, all of that kind of stuff. And I think it's pretty great that we offer a space for these people to do what they like and thrive, essentially. And they're obviously not working. They're on retirement funds or social security or whatever that may be. But the fact that they have a setup to where these people can volunteer. This is a really well-oiled machine that we're talking about here, right? It's basically like its own little state inside of a state. It has its own little economy, and the people don't ever have to leave the village. I mean, they're able to, but they don't have to. I think that's pretty cool.
It
It's like
is
a
cool.
utopia.
And one of the things that I found fascinating was the minute I was pregnant with Farah, Michael, who was my husband at that moment, um, he told his parents they immediately sold their house. They immediately went to, I think it was Sunrise. I think that I can't remember with the name exactly, but it's some big retirement community in Arizona. And they bought a house in an independent senior living facility. And so we went to visit them at this new place. Of course, they had the little golf cart, that they would
The
drive
gator.
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a status symbol,
Yeah.
They had to show it off and they were just so proud of it. They never played golf a day in their life. But anyway, they had their little golf cart and they would drive around. And the very first thing they said when I walked in and they saw I was pregnant was, nobody under the age of 55 can stay overnight here. You can't stay at all. And I'm like, well, doesn't that make me feel welcome, right? Anyway, so it's no problem for me, obviously. But here's the thing that, before we get into all of the stuff we're going to talk about, I just want to set a few things in people's minds who maybe haven't thought about senior citizen villages or communities, but they really are their own situation. They have their own laws, they have their own rules, and it is a community of like-mindedness that wants a specific type of environment.
It's a lot like a covenant when you think of like a HOA
Yeah,
or like a covenant type of situation. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a very good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like restrictive covenants,
exactly.
that's it. So we all know that dating in and of itself is kind of a sketchy, scary situation to begin with, especially nowadays when you don't know what the hell you're going to get. If you're going to get a proud boy, if you're going to get, a serial killer, we don't know what's on the other side. We know what's represented, but we don't always know the truth.
Sure.
So dating later in life can also be very challenging. After all, many seniors have been out of the dating scene game for decades, but also an opportunity to find love and companionship with somebody who has common interests and experiences, all of this is very enticing. So, what's a person to do, Tyler? Tell me about what's been going on in your family and some of the experiences that's been happening.
So so ironically enough, this whole thing began a couple months ago. So I'm a TikTok user. I'm a waste of space. I just sit and scroll on TikTok for sometimes an hour at a time. And I started seeing stuff pop up from the villages. And basically it wasn't like residents that live in the villages, but it's people who know the villages. So I began to see like these codes that were being used. And they not only have their own community, but in a lot of ways have their own language that they speak to each other. And it's this unspoken of subliminal messaging that they can send to each other without even saying anything. It's quite odd.
I love it.
Yeah. So ironically enough, I actually have an aunt that just moved to the villages. And I felt compelled to make sure that she was aware of what my findings in the villages were. And it was super interesting. My mom actually lives in Florida. She's not in the villages or affiliated with the villages at all, but she's heard some rumblings too that have very much mimicked kind of what my findings were. So very interesting little subculture. I can't imagine that it would be everybody in the villages. Maybe it is, but there is definitely a subculture of naughty people that live there.
Maybe we could call them swingers or
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that.
that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me something. So when you finding these codes, are they certain body movements? Are there? So I was watching a show the other day, and I think it's called Peaky Blinders, and it's on Netflix. 6 seasons. My husband and I are binging on it now, and I love it. And I was so amazed and it takes place back in like the early 1920s and that sort of era. But this guy wanted his secretary to seduce a general. And so she, having been a madam of the moment there, because she sort of tried to go into a new profession of being a secretary, she had a body signal. So she had on a dress. They were in this beautiful little restaurant. And she took her shoe and unbuckled her shoe and sort of crossed her legs and, was just kind of flapping her leg like this with her shoe hanging loose until that particular person noticed her. And then he knew that that was an invitation. And I'm like, to David, this is after you told me that there's these things going on. I said to David, well, my God, there must be a whole communication system out there I never even heard of before. My God, I wonder what I've been passing up here.
Yeah, it makes me not want to wear a flip-flop, I feel like.
I know it, exactly. Because you don't want to get the wrong human, right? So
No.
Anyway, like what kind of things would you say are prevalent and trying to attract somebody's attention that they do down there? Like what type of stuff?
Yeah, so one of the things, and I'm going to be looking at my screen here because I did have it kind of pulled up. So a lot of it had to do with these loofahs that you put on your car, and you hang them on the luggage rack, and different colors mean certain things. These,
Wow.
like, I'll take a look at my chart. I'll give you a quick example.
My God, how do you color a loofah?
So you buy it a certain color.
Oh, I see.
Like, so when I say loofah, I don't mean like the loofah sponge. I mean like the little puff balls that you can like foam up.
Oh, the body scrubbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, got it. And they already have
Um,
a string, so you can tie them on an antenna or anything, I guess.
yeah. So like one of them, like if you have for example, if you have a white loofah on top of your car, it would be like for novices and beginners.
I see.
So that might be like you're exploring. Um, like yellow would be indicative of like mid-level swapping, those who want to have fun but are still a little bit nervous. So there's these colors that are essentially like a code specifically that describes who you are and what you're looking for.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I need to be on the lookout when if I'm driving around and I see that's actually code.
It's code. Yeah.
God, otherwise I'd be out there going, what the hell are they doing with that on their
I would be taking it off and trying to like knock on their window and give it back.
I know, exactly, right? And they're like looking at you like you're every kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does your aunt think about all of this? Does she have somebody or is she like excited about this?
So she's married. And you know what? Like, if I'm being honest, she's a super open-minded person, like totally accepting of me being a gay man, and all like no big red flags there. So she's really kind of coming at it with an open mind. She did say that like there was like swingers like from where they're from.
Okay.
So obviously without prying or wanting to know much more than that. Yeah, I mean, she didn't seem shocked. So I would assume that there's like rumblings. They already had friends that have retired there. So I'm sure that there are rumblings about it. And I mean, I think that this is a really fun idea. I think it's funny that this has like been on TikTok, and I think it's two parts here. In no way would I ever sex shame anybody based upon like their age or anything that they're into.
Right.
I want everybody to thrive. But it is kind of interesting that like I guess in my mind, in my narrow mind, when it comes to this kind of stuff, I was really shocked to see like the amount of activity and organization that went into all, because I think every community has their own little things that they do, and the gay community has their things too, but it was very interesting in my mind, being halfway across the country in the middle of the breadbasket in the Bible Belt. And of course, my mind's like, everybody that goes there does that. And it must be this crazy thing. I would imagine that it's a subset of people that live there, but super interesting findings that I have. I thought it was quite weird that TikTok fed me all of this information right before my aunt announced. So I thought something might have been going on, but you know how internet algorithms are. So,
well, TikTok, I'm telling you, TikTok has its fingers into everything, every single, I guess, possible niche market where people would be seeking other people out. I think you can find it on TikTok.
Yeah.
I think it's all there. Well, in honor of all of this, I thought to myself, as a songwriter and as somebody who loves music, and I mean, let me tell you something, all those boomers out there, they all grew up with a lot of great music, some of the most epic music from the 60s and 70s, from the wars and the peace and the free love movement.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about all the hippies and the free love, it's no wonder that this is going on. And before I read some of these lyrics, I just want to say this. For people who get on social media, who think that you're old, over the hill, life has passed you by when you hit a certain age, whatever age number you want to slap on it. I'm here to tell you, you better think again. And you better thank God that that age really has no meaning.
Mhm.
What it is right up here in the brain. If you think old, if you act old, you are old. But if you think young and positive and you want to go out and dance, date, make love, whatever, it's all good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
AI, artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
and especially music in the entertainment business, etc. So just for the hell of it, I went into the robot and I said, give me lyrics for a song for independent senior dating. And I thought this is pretty amazing. So it took the robot all of 30 seconds to come up with this. So the first verse. I'm an independent senior. I've been on my own for a while. I've got my own place, my own car, and my own life to live. Now, doesn't that sound just like somebody starting out in life?
Yeah.
I mean, we could just switch out the independent senior. Chorus. Here's the chorus. But I'm not looking for a roommate. I'm looking for a partner, someone to share my life with, someone to love and be loved by. Now, who wouldn't want that at any age, right?
Mhm.
Verse 2. I'm not looking for someone to take care of me. I'm looking for someone to take care of each other. So it's a togetherness, someone to laugh with, someone to cry with, and someone to grow old with. What's interesting is you're growing old with somebody. You're not old, but you're
Mhm.
growing old. Okay. And then it repeats the chorus. And now here's the bridge. I know I'm not the only one who's looking for love in their golden years. There are plenty of us out there who are looking for companionship and someone to share our lives with. Chorus. So if you're an independent senior and you're looking for love, don't give up. There's someone out there for you just waiting to be found. And the outro. We're not too old to love. We're not too old to find happiness. We're not too old to start over and find the love of our life. So I guess I'm impressed, number one, with these lyrics, right? But number two, here's the thing. If you're one of those people that think there's only one love in your whole life, and if you can't have that person and they passed away or whatever happened, right? You have to keep an open mind if you want to go out and regain your life in society. You can't sit at home and woe is me and what if and oh my God. You know, you have
Yeah.
to have an open mind. And I think what impresses me most about what you're telling us today, Tyler, is that these people have a healthy look at life,
Mhm.
a big open attitude, childlike wonder, right?
Mhm.
And when you have that, you never get old.
That age, if they're out there and doing that, I know personally, I know 40-year-olds who aren't living their truth to that capacity. And I think that that's super inspiring.
Very inspiring. Now, then there's David, my husband, right? He's so I'm telling him about all this stuff I'm learning and all about, you know, what you're saying to me and so forth. And he and I are on the same page. We believe that we have finally found, after all these decades, right, the right person. So we're grateful, we're happy, all of that. So the first thing he says to me is, I said, do you realize just in that one community, it's bigger than where we live. It's like 2 times the size of where we live. And I just think of all those golf carts out there and people shooting about, right?
Yeah.
And having a great time and mixers and all of that. And of course, being an infectious disease doctor, what's the first thing he says?
STDs for sure.
Oh, God. Yeah. And I'm like, that puts a damper on a lot of things. So he goes, well, I just hope they're having responsible sex. And I'm like, does that ever end though? I mean, you should always try to have responsible sex, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was today's community service announcement. And now that we're over that.
Brought to you by Deborah and Tyler.
There you go. Well, we laugh about a lot of things, but I mean, do you see that you might ever, at some point when you're older, that you would want to be in a community like that? Or would you feel more comfortable being like in your own home with your own world in a place where you always grew up in?
That's how I feel. I feel the older, so I used to be super, super social when I was younger. The older I get, the more I keep my circle super small. I'm social about that circle, but externally not super invited to a bunch of people. I could move out to the middle of the sticks with no cell phone service, and I could be just as happy as could be.
Oh my goodness.
Give me flowers to take care of, and that would be good. Just keep my few friends close, and then I would be good with that.
Yeah, and I can see that. I mean, and there's a lot to be said for that, because what you are is grateful, and what you have is very hard to find then, because you have a really loyal base around you.
Yeah.
And it feels like a safety net. That's what
I think like as I got older, when I was younger and I was super social, I was social at the expense of like my inner peace. And like being able to sit at home in a quiet house by yourself and not be stir crazy, that's how you're like truly like rooted in your peace and in your tranquility, and I don't let anything disturb that. So I don't think I'll ever leave Nebraska or Iowa. I'll always be around here for sure.
Well, then, you know what? That's an amazing thing, because you value what you have.
Yeah.
As you know, I just shut the houses up. And I just took out of my little 2-seater car, and whatever could fit in there, that's what I took. And everything else stayed here. So I lived with an Indian family. And I lived with a couple of other people. Basically, what I did was I rented a room in their house. So I didn't really realize how difficult it is to go from your own house and go into kind of like a co-ed environment, right? But that really changed my mind about, could I live just anywhere? Could I have just any surroundings? Because you get so comfortable where you are. I don't even care the tiniest thing, like using the bathroom. When you have to share a bathroom, that's life-changing. And I had, in the Indian house, I had multi-generation. So I was never experiencing that in my whole life. So when I walked in the bathroom at 5:30 a.m. to take my shower and get ready to go to work, there were teeth in a jar. There were just things that were happening that I was like, oh my God. And then I found people stealing my toilet paper. And I'm like, what the heck goes on with people, right? I mean, so I really can appreciate what you're saying about having your own space. And you love to decorate with some lovely, lovely flower arrangements and plantings. So it wouldn't be really, I guess it wouldn't suit your lifestyle at all to have somebody come in and like not like any of that and just trample on things. So I can really appreciate everything you're saying about not wanting to live in a community where the covenants are very restrictive.
Yeah, absolutely. I do, though, really like uniformity. So I think that there are some things that the covenants that I would like no cars parked on the street, no cars kept in the driveway, everything clean and crisp, driveways edged, sidewalks sprayed down. I could totally dig that. But I would have to be the boss of the covenant. It would have to be my way. So I would want to be able to pick and choose what I like, you know, and that's
Yeah.
obviously not something that you can do. But
Well, Farah was living in a gated community in Austin. And one of the things that they had as part of their covenant, which I really like too, because I'm like you, I like edge sidewalks, I like the grass mowed, you know. And in my hood now that I'm in, let me tell you, there are no covenants. It's basically survival of the fittest over here. So I get it. I totally get it. But in her neighborhood, you could not have a great big travel trailer. You were not allowed to have big boats. They lived in an area that had a big lake and a big marina. You were expected to house everything in its appropriate area. And
Mhm.
so when you drove through the neighborhood, your car should be in the garage. It couldn't be an entourage of vehicles lining the driveway and clogging up the street. So I really appreciated that. And I do remember the day that she had the porta potties brought in, and the porta potty was stuck right out front.
Mhm.
So that, you know, as we were filming and people needed to use it, they could use it. Well, that did not go over well with the covenants. In this neighborhood, nobody would even bat an eyelash over it. We
Somebody
just
would move into it.
know it. And they'd probably decorate it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it was just like, you know, people calling the law on her for putting out the porta potty. Then on her fence, she wanted some privacy, but she had a really pretty black wrought iron kind of chain link look. So she just went and got some of those cool vines, plastic vines, and put in there that were interwoven into the mesh. And that didn't fly either. I mean, it's so, I get what you're saying. If they're too restrictive, then you feel like you're suffocating and you've got
Mhm.
a microscope up your ass pretty much.
Yeah.
So I get that too. So I think maybe that's why I do well here in my hood. I feel
Yeah.
like it doesn't have restrictive covenants. People sort of say, okay, we respect that person, and that's cool. That's cool for them. And we're going to be over here. We'll be cool for us, you know.
Mhm.
So I think it works out pretty good for me too, even though I can't stand the weed problem. But okay.
That's kind of how it is in Dundee too. Like we have, like, obviously my yard is very well kept and I am like you, I work hours and hours in the yard, but then the neighbors next door, they may not have grass at all and they'll have only pollinator wildflowers and that's all they'll have. And then, you know, and then you'll have somebody who doesn't take care of their yard at all and everybody just like does their own thing. But I'm like you, when those dandelion seeds start
Oh
blowing, I'm
yeah.
like there with a tarp trying to keep it.
I think that was the hardest thing for David when he moved in after we got married, you know. He would see me over in Gordon's yard or somebody's yard, actually physically digging the root of the entire dandelion out. And I'd come out with like a root like this long.
Yeah.
Oh my God, look at this one. And he goes, how in the hell are you in their yard doing that? I said, well, you know, it makes the whole world more beautiful. So who gives a shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, what are you gonna do? Put me in jail because I pulled a weed out? I don't think so. All right,
Yeah.
made your yard look better. Anyway, so we all laugh about it now. We all have fun, but you know, thank you for having a beautiful yard and thank you for making all of these cool flower arrangements. I really enjoyed looking at them.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely I feel like I'm like one of your long lost children that you never knew about. We have so much
I
in
know.
common when it comes to like plants, and I totally dig like I've gotten really into like vegetable gardening this year. So I did my first vegetable garden in this property and lots of flowers and plants and lots of beautiful stuff popping up and waking up for the year. So love it.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you for doing that. And I'm so glad we can share all of these fun things because
Yeah.
it makes life so much more enjoyable. But
Yeah.
most of all, thank you for being on today
Yeah.
and sharing some interesting new social dating habits that I was not aware of. I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm 65. I should know these things, right?
We'd be getting ready for these things if that's what that genre of life looks like. I guess I have a lot to look forward to.
Well, I'm hoping that by the time you're 65, you'll I feel like I'm 40 actually,
Mhm.
the internal clock. And David turns 70 this week. But I would say he acts more like he's 50. And we really have fun and we like to do so many things. And when I look around me, I see so many people who have chosen a different path where they just seem miserable at a young age, even. I mean, they don't
Mhm.
even, I guess they don't even try to get interested in gardening or interested in music or something. And
Yeah,
I'm convinced that if somebody can listen to some of these podcasts and just take a look inside and really ask themselves what they love to do and not be afraid to just go do it, then we've reached the right audience.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank
I appreciate it. And you have fun and share the beauty with all of your neighborhood. It'll get infectious. People will see it and love it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.